Two brothers once starred in two of the biggest shows on the same network. At the same time, and almost nobody watching noticed they shared a last name. One played a security guard wandering through a theme park full of robots. The other two played his real younger brothers, and together they turned into some of the biggest names in Hollywood. That family is just the start. There are stars sharing scenes with their actual siblings right now, and most fans have no idea. Start with Luke Hemsworth. He played the head of security on a science fiction show that ran from 2016 to 2022, a steady, understated role next to flashier co-stars. His younger brothers happened to be named Chris and Liam Hemsworth. Luke built his own career quietly for years before his family name became a punchline about superhero royalty. And that patience says something. He never leaned on the connection. He let the work speak, and the work eventually caught up to the last name. Speaking of quiet siblings, Scott Evans spent years playing a police officer on a daytime soap opera between 2008 and 2010. His older brother is Chris Evans, who went on to play one of the most recognized superheroes in modern film. Scott kept working steadily in television, far from the spotlight his brother stood under, and that contrast tells its own story. One brother chased blockbuster scale, the other built a career on smaller, steady roles, and both stayed in the same industry without ever really competing for the same space. If these connections are catching you off guard, subscribing means you will keep spotting them everywhere, because Hollywood is smaller than it looks, and families hide in plain sight on nearly every screen. Andrew Wilson acted in a satirical film in 2006 that quietly became a cult favorite years after release. His younger brothers are Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson, two actors most audiences already know by face and voice. Andrew came first, working steadily through the 1990s, before his brothers became household names. So while Owen and Luke picked up the recognition, Andrew kept working behind that fame. Proof that being first doesn't always mean being the most famous. Three brothers, one industry, three very different levels of public recognition, and that gap never seemed to bother any of them. Clint Howard has appeared in over 200 films and television projects since the 1960s, one of the most prolific character actors working today. His older brother is Ron Howard, the Oscar-winning director behind several major films. While Ron moved from acting into directing and built an empire behind the camera, Clint stayed in front of it, quietly racking up credits. Nobody quite adds up until someone actually counts them. That volume of work, spread across 6 decades, means Clint has likely appeared in something you've watched, without you ever clocking the family resemblance. Eric Roberts has accumulated over 900 acting credits on IMDb, a number most actors never come close to touching. His younger sister is Julia Roberts, an Oscar winner and one of the most famous faces in American film. For years, the two were publicly estranged, and Eric didn't help his own case. In September 2024, he published a memoir called Runaway Train. And in it, he apologized to Julia directly, admitting he'd been wrong to take credit for her success and make cutting remarks about her career in old interviews. Two names from the same family, one loud reconciliation, decades in the making. If a story like that hit home, take a moment to like this video. It helps the algorithm put these hidden family ties in front of more people who genuinely want to know them. Now step back into television history. James Arness played Marshal Matt Dillon on a Western series for 20 years straight, from 1955 to 1975, one of the longest-running lead performances in American TV. His younger brother, born Peter Arness, changed his last name to Peter Graves, specifically so he wouldn't be seen as riding his brother's coattails. That decision paid off. Graves went on to star in a hit espionage series from 1967 to 1973, building a name that had nothing to do with the one he was born with. Two brothers, two separate legacies, built from the same household but very different last names. Lowe became a fixture of American television starting in 1999, playing a senior staffer in a political drama that ran for years. His younger brother, Lowe, actually won a Primetime Emmy back in 1993, years before Rob's biggest role arrived. So while people assume the older brother always leads, in this family, the younger one got to the trophy case first. That timing matters. It shows fame in a family doesn't move in a straight line, and sometimes the quieter career reaches the milestone before the bigger one does. John and Joan Cusack have acted together in 10 different movies since 1983, a working partnership that spans 4 decades of American film. Most viewers watching those films never clocked that the two leads sharing a scene were actual brother and sister, not just repeat co-stars. That kind of consistency is rare in an industry built on constant turnover. 10 shared film credits means these two have spent more screen time together than most real families spend at holiday dinners, and neither one has ever seemed to tire of it. Some sibling stories carry more weight than a shared surname. Ralph Fiennes became known worldwide for playing a menacing villain in a film franchise, joining the series in 2005, a role built almost entirely on presence and restraint. His younger brother Joseph Fiennes had already starred in an acclaimed period drama back in 1998, 7 years earlier. Two brothers, two very different kinds of roles, and two career peaks separated by nearly a decade. Neither performance would remind you of the other, and that's exactly the point. Talent in that family clearly didn't repeat itself in one direction. Jesse Eisenberg played a tech founder in a 2010 drama about the founding of a major social platform, a role that earned serious award attention. Long before that, his younger sister Hallie Eisenberg was the face of a soda commercial campaign from 1998 to 2002, recognized by nearly every kid watching television at the time. So the sister was famous first, as a child, years before her brother built a career as an adult actor. Fame in that household clearly skipped generations of the usual order, landing on the youngest one first. If these overlaps are surprising you this far in, subscribing means every future list like this one lands in your feed the moment it goes up. Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez are brothers, but only one of them uses the family's actual name. Charlie adopted their father's stage name back in the 1980s, while Emilio kept their birth name, Estevez, throughout his entire career. That single choice is the reason so many casual viewers never connected the two, despite growing up watching both of them on screen. One name change, decades of confusion, and two carers that ran on parallel tracks without most audiences ever realizing they were related. Liev Schreiber and Pablo Schreiber are half-brothers, sharing a father named Tel Carol Schreiber, and both built long careers in television. Because they share a surname, the connection seems obvious once you know it. Yet plenty of viewers spent years watching both actors without putting the pieces together. Two half-brothers, one shared name, and two separate television careers running at the same time on different networks. Toby Sebastian played a minor royal character in a fantasy series across 2015 and 2016. Memorable enough to fans, but far from a lead role. His younger sister is Florence Pugh, now an Oscar-nominated actress with major studio credits. In September 2025, Florence traveled to Spain to attend Toby's wedding, a quiet family moment that reminded fans the two are close, despite wildly different levels of fame. One sibling built a global film career. The other found steady work in music and smaller roles, and the gap between them never seemed to strain the relationship. Jonah Hill, born Jonah Hill Feldstein, is the older brother of actress Beanie Feldstein, who led a coming-of-age comedy released in 2019. Jonah dropped the family surname professionally, which is exactly why so many people missed the connection for years. Beanie kept it, built her own following through theater and film, and eventually stood on her own without needing her brother's name attached. Same household, same surname originally, two very different paths to recognition. Lily Allen released a song in 2006 that openly poked fun at her younger brother Alfie for smoking too much and doing far too little with his time. It was affectionate, a little cutting, and completely public. A few years later, in 2009, that same brother landed a major role in a fantasy series that premiered in 2011 and made him a recognizable face worldwide. So the sister mocked him in song first, and the fame came for him second, reversing the usual order within 5 years. Warren Beatty and Shirley MacLaine are brother and sister, though you would never guess it from their last names alone. Shirley started using a modified spelling of her middle name, MacLaine, as her professional surname. That single decision, made decades before either of them reached their peak, is the entire reason casual fans never connected two of classic Hollywood's most recognizable faces. Vera Farmiga and Taissa Farmiga are sisters with a 21-year age gap between them, and both have built careers in horror, with Taissa joining the genre in 2011. Vera came first, established herself in film for over a decade before her much younger sister ever stepped in front of a camera professionally. Then Taissa are revived, and rather than compete, the two found themselves working in overlapping corners of the same genre, decades apart in age but oddly similar in the kind of roles they chose. Ariel Winter played a teenage daughter on a long-running family sitcom from 2009 to 2020. One of the most recognizable young actresses of her generation. Her older brother, Jimmy Workman, had his own unusual start, decades earlier. In 1990, 10-year-old Jimmy sat waiting in a casting room while his sister Chanel auditioned for a family comedy film. The director noticed him playing quietly in the corner, asked him to read a few lines instead, and cast him on the spot as Pugsley in a 1991 film. One sibling got discovered by accident as a kid. The other became a household name 20 years later, and neither path looked anything like the other. Melissa Gilbert and Sarah Gilbert share the same mother, Barbara Crane. While Melissa became a fixture of American television in the 1970s and 1980s, her half-sister Sarah rose to prominence in the late 1980s and 1990s, with different fathers. Blake Lively, meanwhile, is the younger sister of Robin Lively, who led a supernatural comedy film back in 1989 that later became a cult favorite. Robin worked steadily through the following decade, and years later, Blake became one of the most photographed actresses of her generation, proving once again that in this industry, fame rarely arrives on schedule, and it almost never arrives for everyone in a family at the same time. 20 stories, one pattern repeating itself. Somewhere behind almost every famous face, there's a sibling working just as hard, often without the same spotlight. If any of these connections surprised you, like and subscribe, because there are plenty more hidden family ties still waiting to be uncovered.